Welcome back to Nerd Wars, and you guessed it, the war on woke continues. Today in video games. No rest for the Wicked CEO, Thomas Mailer. I feel like I remember him from a story recently. Rebukes game journalist and defends gamers fighting back against woke ideology. Get that dirty game journalist! Mahler took to X on May 13th, where he detailed he was contacted by Weber for an article that will likely be published in the German outlet GameStar. He wrote, I already know I might get myself into trouble once again by posting this. Yet he still does, and he nails it. But I just replied to Maurice Weber, a German journalist who's affiliated with the German GameStar outlet GameStar. So many freaking capital G's there. I do think it's especially important these days that we always remind ourselves to try to keep an open mind and try to understand even those who think differently than we do. He actually kind of crushes it on here, pointing out that we kind of do have some crazies on both sides. And if you look into Gamergate 1, it wasn't just all the women in games who were the problem. There was misbehavior on both sides. He then shared a response he sent to Weber regarding people who are apparently fed up by woke culture. Mahler wrote, I think it all makes sense, Maurice. This is basically a backlash against cancel culture and similar phenomenon because everyone has had enough of that nonsense. We ain't gonna take it no more. Cancel culture has basically been canceled. There's still people who do get canceled, but compared to what it was, we've basically turned the corner on it. But with it being an election year, they're going to do their best to bring it back. I don't think it's going to work. If they still have control of Twitter, probably. But how it is, I think cancel culture may be canceled until the global digital IDs come about. I'd suggest you take a more nuanced view. Normally, I hate people using the term nuance. It's just like, well, actually, but this guy does actual nuance. Nails it. One of the few people I will give permission to use the term nuance, especially since you position yourself as a journalist. I tried to dig a little deeper, ask some questions people weren't very happy about me asking when it came to Sweet Baby Inc. It's like, I'm a journalist now. Like, I got to make sure I got hard evidence if I'm saying things, or else you end up getting sued like that Park Place by Black Girl Gamers. Gamergate 1 was literally all about journalistic integrity. Yet you often display a narrow-minded attitude and don't seem to question what's actually going on. And that is something we should expect from a journalist. We too, though, also need to make sure we hold ourselves to some high standards. That same sort of journalistic integrity. We don't beat Kotaku by becoming Kotaku. Just because you personally haven't been affected by cancel culture doesn't mean that there hasn't been a lot of foolishness happening. And it's still ongoing. On both sides, sadly. Alyssa Mercante just got doxxed after she was harassing some YouTuber's wife. And it's only a matter of time before it impacts you too. Yes. It's bad when anyone gets doxxed, people. We need to be able to say that. Consider this famous statement. First they came for the socialists and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Well, sadly it's the socialists coming for us. Blah, 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 blah. You speak up for your enemies because you're speaking up for yourself. Self-preservation. We got freedoms and rights for everyone or no one. Instead of allowing artists to just be artists, Hollywood and most of the game developers on the West Coast, or the left coast more accurately, have decided that it's appropriate to use films and video games as platforms to push their own political agenda. If you argue otherwise, I would expect a journalist like you to back it up with thorough research. The journos are still trying to pretend like wokeness isn't happening, hasn't taken over everything, and gone way, way, way too far. You're just a racist because you don't like the incredibly flamboyant Rwandan Doctor Who, or the drag queen story hour villain. Or worst of all, that it's a musical. Moreover, it's become the norm to point fingers at others, particularly at those who may think differently from us, rather than allowing others to be different and listening to them regardless. We attack them outright. It's frankly eerily reminiscent, and you guessed it, yeah, it got brought up. Anyone who doesn't conform is ridiculed, and it's suggested they be shamed, fired, and have their careers destroyed. Michael Rappaport, the D-list actor from the Fallout show, how did he get that job? The TDS of all TDSs is now like, I might vote for Trump. Joe Biden's an MFer. He's also Jewish, so he's not happy about that. So he finally, he decided, you know what? I'm not going to just blindly support the left. He was canceled from a comedy club in a matter of weeks. This has been the approach over the past few years, and I know plenty of people whose careers have been devastated by trivialities and misinformation, and they continue to suffer today. You seem unaffected unless you refuse to consider a more open perspective. We Baby Inc. detected Discord got hacked or whatever it was. Bunch of stuff deleted, bunch of people banned. It's bad when either side does it. And while we should also gatekeep the crazy wokes out, we need to self-police all the crazies inside as well. Allow me to also play critic for a moment. At GameStar, you do the same thing. Instead of cleaning your own house, you wield the "we report and earn from our articles." But beware, those guys are the real villains narrative. Just to ensure the spotlight never falls on you, aligning yourselves just so. So easy to just go along. When you go along, all of a sudden you think, maybe it's not crazy you start chopping kids' balls off. That's precisely why we've cut you off. We find such morally dubious practices unacceptable and refuse to support them. Get 'em. Here comes some games journalism slander. Oh, well, not slander because it's true. You lack the initiative to conduct your own journalistic investigations, as it seems too much work when the next clickbait article is due the next day. The sad thing is that young journalists like yourself never knew anything else. The rage baiters. This crap is exactly what Gamergate 1 was about, all the Kotaku rage bait. And it hasn't gotten any better, it's only been worse. And now they can't make any money. Ad revenue is below ground. Kotaku, they're either going to get sold off or going to become a game guide. The more outrage you generate, the more clicks you get, and that's how you make your living, at the expense of others, which apparently doesn't matter as long as you're seen as the good guys. Yes, yes, dirty games journalists. Go, we don't want you here no more. We're the games journalists now. I hope in the future you will approach the world with more skepticism and openness, and truly consider both sides instead of aligning yourself with one to amplify their propaganda. But he doesn't just go like full-blown crazy town. He's very well-reasoned. And it's hard to disagree with him. It is deeply, deeply important after everything that happened over the past couple of years that we always question hidden agendas. Always try to be loving and show understanding, even to those we vehemently disagree with. Proper discourse is more important than ever. I try to push this. Sometimes people don't like it. They're very passionate. I fully support the nerd rage. But sometimes, like when this originally came out, we thought these guys were the bad guys because they had some consultant that was working for them. And he said some woke crap. And then this guy came out and we're like, oh, okay, never mind. He's awesome. Also, they said he fired him immediately. Okay. So I love the passion, but you've been following news for so long. Sometimes good to give it a day or two before you say anything a little too passionate. Also, it is video games. No need to be harassing people. That's for inside the video games. And journalists need to understand their responsibilities and all this and start acting like journalists again. Oh my God, yes. Well, I'm a journalist. I wrote 2 articles and then got sidetracked streaming. But I'd still identify as a games journalist and a professional streamer. If you didn't catch the original story, someone who worked at the company as a consultant for a while said some crap about effective DEI and all this nonsense. And then he had to come out and say, this person is not affiliated with Moon Studios in any way whatsoever anymore. We contracted him for a short stint and he was fired for bringing nothing but friction into our team, just FYI. And that's why we already like this guy. And now he did this. Gamergate 1 was all about how the crazies took over indie games and then they ended up making their way into AAA games, now causing Gamergate 2. How do we solve this? Well, we take over the industry like they did, first through indies and then slowly. And we will win. People are going to support us more than the crazies. We just have to get up off our butts and do it. And while we're getting up off our butts, why don't you go and hit that like and that subscribe and tell me down in the comments how much you hate games journalists. Thanks for watching, and please follow the algorithm on your way out and support the channel by becoming a YouTube member.